Yeah, I think that as we think about virtual events in the context of this new era of the events industry, right? Like we're seeing a challenge and a question that event planners have, being that, we went from the standard event production for in-person event experiences, right? Like that was very much set in stone. Event planners understood kind of the basics of how to produce an in-person event. But now with virtual, it's not going away, right? Like that's very much still a format that event planners are tapping into. But the question is, how do we make a virtual experience as compelling as an in-person production, right? Like how do I keep my attendees tuned in, not, answering emails, getting distracted? What are the components that comprise a really compelling virtual experience that is, going to keep attendees engaged and, interested in the content and coming back for more, right? Like how do you use that as a starting point to keep them interested and thinking, hey, like this brand puts on really great virtual experiences. Like I want to keep coming to these. I want to invest my time into the content, into other people who are attending. How do you use production as a way to, make your attendees lifelong fans of your virtual experiences?
Exactly. And this is stuff that they're still figuring out, right? Because when you went from in person to virtual, it happened overnight. And what people I think often don't realize is that when you're in person, there's a lot more to engage in other than just the speakers and the content, right? So what happened is when we went virtual overnight, they just ported that same presentation style directly to virtual, right? But now you don't have the networking and you don't have the happy hours and you don't have the connections and the friendships and the location and all the things that add to your experience when you're in person. Now all you have is you sitting at a computer logging in and seeing that same presentation, except now it's just flat, right? So how do you think about that, improving the production value for virtual so that it captures some of the same magic as in-person events, right? But that's not the only question. There's lots of different questions that people are asking right now in this industry. For example, finding the right format of events in the first place. So now that we have both in-person and virtual and even the blend in between, how do we think about the frequency, the size, and when is the right event for each particular use case?
Yeah, definitely. And you think about engagement too, right? Like how do you truly engage your attendees with tools, entertainment, unique activations? Like how do you really make them feel like they're in an immersive experience? Because I think that's very easy, or not, I don't want to say easy. I think it's in an in-person setting, right? Like you can feel all those things. Like you have all of your senses kind of going off. But in a virtual setting, there is a barrier. Like you're not in person, you're not among other people, you're not maybe seeing someone up on stage, like a DJ or a magician doing something after hours with a happy hour or something like that. But like figuring out how to translate that into a virtual setting, I think is a main question for event planners right now, because we have these tried and true things that worked really well in person, but what does that look like in a virtual setting? I think that's a question and a challenge that we're still kind of struggling with and dealing with. But hopefully, I think we're gonna answer some of that in this episode.
Exactly. I think in this episode, we're realizing, and in the industry in general in this moment in time, we're realizing that virtual events in 2020 could be one thing and meet expectations because it was all that there was. And now that things have evolved and changed and we're coming back to in person, we've got to step up our game. And that's what this episode's all about.